Naga Padoha is an abyssal sea serpent, so astronomically massive that the entire physical world rests squarely upon its writhing, scaled back. If this leviathan ever fully frees itself from its oceanic prison, the earth above will instantly shatter, plunging all of existence back into primordial chaos. Coiled directly beneath Sumatra in the pitch-black depths of the Sunda megathrust fault, every time the beast shifts a single inch, catastrophic earthquakes rip through the surface. But it cannot escape. When the creator deity first established the world, he drove a divine sword straight through the serpent's flesh. It remains permanently pinned in the dark void, violently writhing against the blade for all of eternity. While Naga Padoha holds the earth from below, the next creature ensures that absolutely nothing survives in the darkest waters above it. Timingila is a deep ocean nightmare, so incomprehensibly enormous that its sole biological purpose is to swallow entire whales whole. If it ever rose from the abyssal depths, the sheer displacement of water alone would trigger apocalyptic tidal waves, drowning continents in seconds. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe a nesting doll of pure terror. A creature called the Timingila exists solely to swallow the original Timingila in one single bite. This beast cannot be killed, hunted, or reasoned with. It is trapped forever as a permanent conceptual anchor in ancient cosmology, existing solely to prove that human comprehension of terror has absolutely no floor. While that beast devours the leviathans of the deep, our next serpent possessed an insatiable hunger for the sky itself. Bakunawa is a colossal Visayan sea dragon with a mouth so unspeakably vast it rose from the waves to eat the stars. It seeks to devour the final moon. If it succeeds, humanity will be cast into permanent, paralyzing darkness. It already swallowed exactly 6 of the world's 7 moons, melting them away in its acidic belly like hot wax while flashing a blinding, blood-red tongue. It cannot be killed by conventional weapons. During every lunar eclipse, humans must scream, beat heavy pots, and bang war drums to deafen the beast. The terrifying noise startles the dragon, forcing it to spit out the moon and retreat back to the abyss in a never-ending cycle of cosmic starvation. From a serpent that attacks the moon, we descend back to the primordial oceans, where a multi-headed terror once waged war against creation itself. Lotan is a 7-headed chaos dragon from 1400 BCE Ugaritic mythology, a beast of pure, unadulterated annihilation. If Lotan overpowers the storm god Baal, the ordered universe will collapse instantly back into formless, violently churning water. Predating the Hebrew Leviathan by centuries, its 7 independently thinking heads snap and tear at the fabric of reality. But its rampage was cut short. It is ultimately pulverized by Baal, its crushed, bloody corpse serving as the very foundation upon which the functioning world was built. It is eternally dead, trapped in clay, but never forgotten. While Lotan's death birthed order, our next entity uses supreme power to keep the oceans under absolute, suffocating control. Ryujin is the supreme dragon king of the sea, ruling from a blindingly radiant underwater palace forged entirely from deep-sea coral. If angered, he can unleash catastrophic tsunamis or suck the oceans bone dry, instantly wiping out all maritime life. He controls this apocalyptic power using exactly 2 magical jewels, the Konju and Manju, and visitors to his realm, like the fisherman Urashima Taro, lose centuries of surface time in a matter of mere days. Yet, Ryujin is forever burdened by his absolute rule. Over centuries of storytelling, his original identity slowly merged with lesser gods, his pristine mythology consumed by the relentless tide of human belief. Before Ryujin consumed the folklore, however, the Japanese coastlines were terrorized by a far more violent, unpredictable god. Watatsumi is the primordial great sea being, commanding legions of slithering sea serpents and weaponizing the ocean's rawest fury. Refusing to bow to this deity guarantees your fleet will be splintered into driftwood by targeted, inescapable storms. Fishermen had to bleed out offerings and drop them directly into the dark waves before every single voyage, just to secure their lives. Despite his terrifying power, Watatsumi was ultimately defeated by time itself. His bloody mythology was swallowed whole and erased by the growing, sanitized cult of Ryujin. While Watatsumi demanded blood to spare ships, 4 Chinese kings demanded tribute to spare the entire continent from starvation. The Long Wang are 4 omnipotent dragon kings, each governing one of the 4 cardinal oceans from pressurized crystal fortresses. Should they withhold their reign, entire empires would wither into dust. If they over-deliver, catastrophic floods would drown millions. Their military forces are bizarrely specific, commanded by heavily armored crab generals and millions of spear-wielding shrimp soldiers. But their absolute authority was shattered. After the Monkey King Sun Wukong broke into the Eastern King's palace and violently stole a 17,500-pound iron pillar, the kings were permanently humiliated. Stripped of their strongest weapon, they are now forced to eternally answer the petty prayers of desperate farmers. While the Chinese Dragon Kings ruled from crystal palaces, their Japanese counterparts embraced a much quieter, invisible authority. The Ryu is a serpentine guardian of the Japanese waters, devoid of wings but radiating divine, lethal power. Without their relentless watchfulness, the bodies of water they protect would violently overflow, causing catastrophic floods that wipe out entire valleys. Their hierarchy is strictly defined by exactly how many claws they possess. 5 claws signify imperial divinity, while lesser beasts carry only 3 or 4, clutching a single glowing pearl of pure water control. They are forever trapped in a quiet, watchful purgatory. Bound to specific rivers and lakes, they are forbidden from acting out their monstrous nature in exchange for silent guardianship. But before any dragon earns the right to hold that pearl of wisdom, they must survive a chaotic, blood-soaked adolescence. The Jiao Long is a crocodilian serpent hybrid, a vicious flood dragon tearing through coastlines in a frenzy of destruction. If allowed to roam unchecked, it triggers relentless typhoons that drag entire coastal cities into the ocean trenches. It deliberately shapeshifts into stunning human forms, luring naive travelers directly into the darkest, coldest waters to violently drown them. It is trapped in a brutal evolutionary purgatory. It must either earn divine ascension through centuries of suffering, or be hunted down and slaughtered as a chaotic beast. While the Jiao Long hides its monstrous form, an entire encyclopedia of serpents openly haunts the Chinese deep. The Hai Shi are dozens of classified, apocalyptic sea serpents documented with cold, clinical precision in the ancient classic of mountains and seas. Citing the wrong serpent guarantees the violent collapse of an entire ruling dynasty or a catastrophic continent-wide war. Ancient field guides treat them not as gods, but as biological facts, cataloging multi-headed abominations and fire-breathing worms massive enough to encircle entire island chains. They cannot be fought. They exist strictly as inevitable, fatal omens, permanently trapped in the pages of ancient cosmology as flashing warning signs of mass death. While the Hai Shi foretold the death of empires, our next creature specialized in the agonizingly slow death of individual ships. The Ikuchi is a rotting, miles-long sea eel that emerges off the coast of Japan, weeping oceans of thick, paralyzing oil from its scales. If its viscous slime coats a ship's deck, the vessel will become hopelessly weighed down and drag its screaming crew into the black depths. Because of its incomprehensible length, it takes exactly 3 agonizing hours for the serpent's body to slither over a single boat. Sailors are forced into a brutal, fatal endurance test. They must frantically bail the slippery oil with wooden buckets for 3 continuous hours or succumb to a suffocating, oily grave. And if you do drown in those oil-slicked waters, you join the ranks of a horrifying aquatic undead. The Funayurei are the waterlogged, rotting ghosts of drowned sailors, rising from the pitch-black waves to drag the living down with them. Encountering them guarantees your ship will be flooded and pulled into the abyss, fueling their undead armada. They operate on a terrifyingly polite logic. They rise pale and soaking wet to hand you a wooden ladle. If you take it, your ship magically fills with hundreds of gallons of seawater in seconds. But they can be outsmarted. They are utterly neutralized by a morbid maritime life hack. Sailors must hand them a ladle with the bottom violently smashed out. The ghosts are cursed to an endless loop, mindlessly pouring water through an empty hole while the ship escapes. While ghost ships hand out wooden ladles, our next maritime nightmare demands a much larger vessel. The Umibozu is a colossal, featureless mass of black shadow that violently erupts from perfectly calm Japanese waters, its head scraping the storm clouds. Showing fear, speaking to it, or reacting in any human way instantly accelerates the crushing, splintering demise of your ship. It stalks the ocean on dead calm nights, glaring down with two massive, glowing white eyes before demanding a wooden barrel. To survive, the crew must offer it a bottomless barrel. The Titan becomes idiotically distracted, endlessly attempting to pour the entire Pacific Ocean into the broken cask while the ship frantically sails away. While the Umibozu demands a barrel to play with, our next monstrous entity demands you believe a beautiful lie. The Shen is a gargantuan, shape-shifting sea clam that lurks in the abyssal trenches of Chinese mythology, masquerading as a dragon. Falling for its trap guarantees your entire naval fleet will sail directly into jagged coral reefs, tearing the wooden hulls to shreds. It violently exhales a thick, hallucinogenic mist that rises above the water, physically fabricating the hyper-realistic mirage of a glowing ghost city to lure sailors in. But it can never reach the surface. Trapped permanently on the ocean floor under the crushing pressure, the Shen is cursed to forever project lies into the sky, eating only the drowned corpses of those foolish enough to chase a phantom. If the illusion of a city doesn't drag you beneath the waves, a silent, razor-sharp tail surely will. The Isonade is an invisible, shark-like leviathan known as the beach stroker, a name that completely betrays its lethal nature. Its presence guarantees maritime slaughter and inescapable storms off the coast of Kyushu. You will never see its body. You will only feel the agonizing tear of its hook-covered tail violently snatching you off the deck in total, deafening silence. It cannot be fought, countered, or killed. It exists as a permanent, untraceable assassin of the deep, leaving behind absolutely no bodies and no warnings. While the Isonade snatches victims from the deck, our next creature prefers to drag children straight from the shallows. The Kappa is a child-sized, reptilian humanoid armed with webbed claws, strong enough to effortlessly drag a fully grown warhorse underwater. Swimming alone guarantees you will be drowned, your livestock slaughtered, and your organs forcefully extracted from below. Its absolute power comes entirely from a shallow dish of water lodged in its skull, and it reeks of rotting fish and swamp mud. Despite its murderous habits, it is pathologically polite. If you bow deeply, it is cursed to bow back, spilling its cranial water and rendering it completely paralyzed and helpless. From a small, shelled monster in the shallows, we turn to a heavily armored monstrosity that dominated the Vietnamese seas. The Con Rit is a 6-foot long, heavily armored sea centipede that slices through the water like a living buzzsaw. If its path crosses a fishing fleet, its razor-sharp metallic segments will instantly cleave the wooden hulls and the sailors clean in half. Every time it surfaces, its overlapping hexagonal armor plates grind together, creating a deafening, metallic ringing that paralyzes victims with fear before it strikes. According to legend, it was ultimately decapitated by a local hero, its severed, toxic segments washed ashore to eternally rot, cursing the beaches with an unbearable, pestilent stench. While the Con Rit relies on sheer metallic brutality, our next creature relies on an ancient, divine hybrid of flesh. The Makara is a monstrous, Frankenstein-esque hybrid of the deep, fusing the rear half of a churning sea serpent with the massive head of a land beast. As the guardian of cosmic waters, if it abandons its post, the universe would suffer an apocalyptic, irreversible drought. It is plastered obsessively across Vedic texts and temple architecture, famously serving as the living, breathing banner for Kamadeva, the god of love. But it possesses no freedom. It is stripped of its free will, eternally bound and subjugated as a divine vehicle, ridden endlessly through the cosmos by the gods. While the Makara serves as a subjugated beast of burden, a far more regal serpent demands absolute worship. The Naga are terrifyingly divine serpent beings, ruling, sprawling, illuminated underwater kingdoms with venomous authority. Disrespecting them guarantees your lands will be stripped of rain, cursed with barren soil and deadly famine. The most legendary of their kind, Mukalinda, possessed exactly 7 cobra heads, flaring his massive hood to shelter the Buddha from an apocalyptic storm. Yet, they are forever bound to the Naga Loka. They are forced to guard sacred spaces and temple entrances as living stone balustrades, their serpentine bodies walked upon by mortal pilgrims. While the Naga guard the temples, our next guardian was born entirely from mortal tragedy. Mazu is a mortal woman who ascended into an omnipotent sea goddess, donning blood-red robes to walk directly upon the surface of raging typhoons. If she fails to appear, millions of sailors face certain, crushing death in the primordial chaos of the Pacific storms. As a young girl named Lin Mo, she saved her family's fleet using pure, trance-like concentration, but dropped one brother to a watery grave when her mother shook her awake. She died tragically young at 27. Now, her spirit is cursed to an eternity of absolute vigilance, forced to guide the lives of over 200 million worshippers worldwide without a moment of rest. While Mazu ascended to protect humanity from the sea, our final beings rose from the deep to teach humanity how to survive in the first place. The Apkallu are 7 ancient, divine sages who emerged from the Persian Gulf draped in the rotting, scaled skins of massive fish. Without their sudden intervention 3,000 years ago, human civilization would have collapsed into lawless, feral starvation. Led by the entity Oannes, they violently dragged humanity into the light, force-feeding them the secrets of writing, complex law, and agriculture before sunset. But they could not stay. They were permanently banished back to the oceanic abyss every single night, eventually disappearing entirely and leaving humanity cursed to destroy itself with the very knowledge they provided. If you manage to survive this descent into the crushing depths without getting drowned, swallowed, or handed a bottomless ladle, you might as well subscribe. The algorithm is just as merciless as the deep ocean, and I don't have a magical pearl to save you.